Hey everyone, and welcome back to Civics Review. Today we're going to be talking about the law-making process, how it works, who's involved, and what you need to know for your test. Well, let's get to it. Making laws in the United States of America is a difficult process, and it's probably a good thing laws aren't easy to make. The founding fathers that wrote up the Constitution wanted to be sure that laws couldn't be made up on the spot just to tyrannize the nation and its citizens. Probably has something to do with a traumatic past experience. If those British accent laws went right over your head, you should check out my video found here for more information. Anyways, laws can be made at all levels of government, federal, state, and local. This video is going to focus on federal laws, which are laws made for the entire nation that we all have to follow. So let's begin. The rules for lawmaking are written down in Article 1 of the Constitution, which, in case you forgot, the U.S. Constitution is the rule book for how our government operates and what they can and cannot do. Also defines the powers and requirements for the legislative branch. However, all three branches of government will have a hand in this process. Psst, hey, that's the reason why this is such a complicated process. Now, the majority of the work will be done by the legislative branch. They're going to do the heavy lifting. However, the executive branch and the judicial branch all have their part to play in this lawmaking process. Okay, we got it. So, how do we make laws? Okay, how do I explain this? Oh, so awkward. When a mommy lawmaker and a daddy lawmaker love each other very much.
Shut the main vault door! Shut the main vault door!
No. Actually, laws start out as ideas, and these ideas can come from anyone, not just lawmakers. Citizens can come up with ideas for laws and call or contact a lawmaker that represents them to help turn this idea into an actual law. If a lawmaker likes an idea from a citizen, or they come up with their own idea for a law and they think it's going to benefit a lot of people, they can officially write up a bill to get the process in motion. And a bill is a term we use for a proposed law that is under consideration by the legislature. When a lawmaker writes up a bill, we call this sponsoring a bill because they are supporting the idea and think it deserves a look by all the lawmakers of the legislative branch. They're going to take this idea and show the rest of their buddies. The bill is given a number and assigned to a committee. Now, a committee is a subdivision of the lawmaking branch. Think of it as a small part of the entire organization. And this small part is going to look very carefully at the bill because they're the experts on the issue. The person that wrote up the bill might have said, hey, this is a great idea, but I don't know anything about it. So I'm going to give it to a small group of experts that know more about this than I do. They can even bring in outside experts to help them make this law, people that know even more than they do about certain things. And hopefully they will be able to look at the positives, the negatives, how much this is going to cost, do we really need this, and be able to mark it up, make changes to the idea, and see if we can't make this a real law that all Americans follow. Now, what's most likely going to happen is when the experts get their hand on this bill, this idea for a new law, they're going to say, you know, this is a really great idea, and I can see how you were trying to help people with it, but it's just impossible. We know all about this, the ins and outs, and we're telling you right now, it can't be done. At this point in time, the bill will die, right in the hands of the experts or the committee. About 90% of all bills that are introduced to the legislative branch will die in committee because the experts can't find a way to make it work, or there will be too many negatives or too much cost. And this is going to be a theme for the video. These bills are not long for the world. There are so many points in this process where a bill can die. It's more likely to end up dead in a graveyard than to become an actual law in America. However, if the committee votes and decides, hey, you know what? This idea just might work, then the bill moves on to the entire chamber. The committee of experts has done their job and they say, hey, this has a chance, but it's got to be all of us. We all have to talk and discuss this to see if this is what we want. So this small group of pizza rejoins the entire pie and they all get together and debate and vote on it. As they're doing these things, they might add additional things to the bill that the experts didn't think of or didn't want to have on there. They can also cross things out that the experts had on there and said, we don't want this. they're going to ask questions like, what do the people from my state think? Is it going to have a negative effect on my voters? And somebody always brings up,
what about the children?
Once they're done marking it up and discussing it, it's time to vote. And there are a lot of lawmakers in each chamber of Congress. You're going to see the bill and the number that it was given, and then they're going to count yays and nays. Literally, like yay for yes, nay for no. And they're going to see if they can't get 51% of the voters in the lawmaking body to agree on this, to agree with a simple majority. Oh yeah, they also have a shot clock. If 51% or a simple majority vote yay for the bill, then it moves on to the next step of the process. However, if it gets less than 51%, then the bill dies. At this point in time, the bill has made it through 1/2 of the lawmaking process, at least for the legislative branch. And we want to think of this bill as a survivor, right? Very, very few bills make it this far, but they still have more parts to go through. That's right. In case you forgot, the legislative branch is made up of 2 chambers. That crazy word bicameralism. The first part of this video that talked about writing up a bill, sponsoring it, getting a committee to look at it, and voting was all for one chamber. We have to do the same exact thing in the other chamber. These 2 chambers are called the House of Representatives and the Senate. And the bill can start in either one. It does not matter. Unless, of course, it's a tax revenue bill. Those have to get started in the House of Representatives. If you forgot that or you need more information, you can check out the video here. Here's where things get a little bit complicated. You see, the House of Representatives and their committee and their ideas and what they changed to the bill and how they voted and agreed on it will look very differently if we give it to a separate group of lawmakers. And so once this bill has been approved by 1/2 of Congress, we have to repeat the process over again. And they're going to send it to a different chamber. And this chamber will have entirely different lawmakers coming up with ideas for laws. And these different lawmakers will have very different perspectives on what should be in the bill, what kind of changes should be made to it. And they're going to assign their own special group or committee of experts to look at it, write it up, and add different ideas to it. Now here's the real kick in the pants, is if this new committee looks at the bill and goes, you know what, we're experts on this and we just don't see it happening, the bill dies. The bill has the same percentage chance, which is a 90% chance of dying in this committee, even though the other half of the chamber has worked very hard on this and agreed that it just might work. This process is a bloodbath. But let's say this entirely different group of lawmakers and their specialist committee of experts also agrees that this bill just might work. Now it's time to send it to the entire chamber, the entirely new chamber, for them all to discuss and debate. Not just the experts, but everyone in the room. Everyone gets to say their piece about the bill and make changes or add things or cut things from this, just like the other chamber. But they might come up with very different ideas. They might have questions like, what do the people from my state think? Or, how much will this cost? Or, where are the turtles? Once everybody's debated, added, or taken things out of the bill, they're ready to vote with the entire chamber. And again, we're looking for a 51% vote or a simple majority. If they don't get 51%, then the bill dies. It dies right then and there. If they do get 51%, the bill has survived the second half of the lawmaking process. Then, are we done? Almost, but not quite. Just when you think you're almost done with this, the annoying kid in class asks that one question that makes the teacher talk for another 5 minutes. But we do see this question on our test, and so it's worthwhile in answering. If there is a tie, and there's a 50-50 vote, the leader of the Senate gets to make the tie-breaking vote. And in case you forgot who's the leader of the Senate, that's the Vice President. You can check more information out in this video found here. Even though the Vice President is the leader of the Senate, they only get to vote if there's a tiebreak. They do not normally get to cast a vote in the legislative branch. But what about the House of Representatives? You never talked about the House of Representatives. Thanks, annoying kid. You're right. Well, what if there's a tie in the House of Representatives? There are 435 members of the House, and I'm not very good at math, but this number does not divide into 2 parts equally. Everyone, we've done it. The House and the Senate have both agreed on the same bill. It was a grueling process, and our bill almost died many, many times, but now we have a law, right? Both the House and the Senate have agreed. Well, unfortunately, the House and the Senate might have come up with very different bills because they're made up of different people with different ideas. Your brother, your sister, you might all be given the same task, but you might come up with very different ways of doing that task. And so we have to consolidate both plans before we can move forward. If the two sides cannot agree on the changes that they've both made, then the bill dies. If one side really wanted to include things about turtles and the other side was like, no way, man, forget about the turtles, then they couldn't agree on it. But if the compromise committee, which is a committee that's made up of members from both the House and the Senate, get together and are able to agree on the changes or say, hey, look, we'll include the turtles if you agree to cross out this same section that we have crossed out. Then the conference committee takes the agreed upon bills and sends it back to both chambers because they did make changes. Can you imagine the House of Representatives going back and saying, well, look, we added turtles to the bill. I don't know. That's the only way we could agree. And so they have to take it back to their original chambers, look over the changes, and then vote on it and decide, do we really want this bill with the turtles included, or are we going to say, no, we're not doing this? Only when both sides agree to these changes does it go to a different branch. The bill finally lands on the president's desk, and as soon as it does, a 10-day timer begins ticking for the president to decide what he wants to do with that bill. Let's review the 3 choices the president has. The president can sign the bill, and once he does, it becomes a law and makes everybody happy. Look at that guy in the back, man. He's like, I had to include turtles in this bill to make it a reality. The least you could do, Mr. President, is sign it and make it into a law. Also, if he forgets to sign the bill or the 10-day time limit is up, the bill automatically becomes a law. Up next is the second choice for the president, which is known as vetoing the bill. If the president vetoes the bill is dead. It goes back to Congress, where they must repeat the process over again. This is a super mean thing to do, but it makes a lot of sense. Maybe the president does not like the issue about the turtles, and he says, why did you guys include this? Go back and try it again. But if the legislative branch feels strongly enough about this bill, they don't have to go do the process over again. They can vote to overturn the president's veto. And the way that they can do that is to get 2/3 of all the lawmakers to agree that they want to overturn the veto and push the bill through so that it becomes a law. Now, this is extremely difficult when you consider that the legislative branch is made up of Democrats and Republicans, and those guys want to punch each other's lights out all the time. That's what they dream of. And so in order to get 67% of them to agree on anything is very challenging, but it can be done. Option 3 for the president is known as the pocket veto, and this one can be sneaky. Basically, the president does not sign the bill into law. His 10-day timer is still going though, right? So he knows in 10 days this bill will become a law if I sign it or not. The only thing he can really do is veto it, but a pocket veto means he's going to stick it in his pocket for later. What he's secretly hoping will happen is that Congress will break up and go back to their homes. Remember, these guys live in different states. They're coming to Washington, D.C. to make laws. Those guys want to play golf. They want to go to their kids' t-ball game, whatever. They don't want to be in Washington, D.C. all the time. If Congress breaks up and goes home and ends their session, and the bill is still in his pocket, and he still has time on the clock, then the bill dies. There's a few reasons the president might do this. It's really sneaky. He doesn't want to seem like the bad guy. So if he says no to these bills, boo, Congress worked so hard on that, how can you say no? He doesn't want to seem like the bad guy. So he knows those guys want to go home. If they can't wait any longer, then I'll just keep it in my pocket. The bill dies. I never said no. They just didn't stay and wait for me to sign it. And so once they left and they disbanded Congress, there's nothing I can do. The bill died. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks so much for sticking to the end of my video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. We'll make more videos soon.